Welcome to Tech Arena Data Insights. My name's Allyson Klein. Today we are coming to you from OCP Summit in San Jose, California, and I am with Jeniece Wnorowski. Hey Jeniece, how you doing?
Hey Allyson.
So Jeniece, OCP has been jam-packed, and you have brought with you a fantastic guest to talk to us. Tell me about the topic and who's sitting between us.
Yes, a fantastic guest. You come here and you just see most people that you've met, previously in your career, but it's not too often that you get to meet a doctor. So today we actually have Dr. Chien with us, who is a professor at the University of Chicago. But you're also a senior data scientist with Argonne Labs. Is that correct?
That's right. I'm a senior scientist there. Yeah.
Yes. So we are going to dive into all things AI today, which is also a hot topic for this conference. So welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So Dr. Chien, let's just start out. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at the university and what, research do you study?
Sure. I'm a full professor in computer science, and I've been doing research in really two areas for the last 4 or 5 years. One is in scalable graph analytics, accelerators for that. And the second really is what brings me here. We've been studying how data centers interact with the power grid, how to make them more sustainable, how to make them more capable.
Now, you have a background that spans from industry all the way into academia. What does that bring you in terms of a unique focus in your current work?
It's kind of interesting because, some people are surprised. I spent 15 years as an academic before I went to serve at Intel as a senior executive leading research. And, what I learned from that experience actually is that there's some things that academics can do. The problems are well suited for academics to attack. And then there are problems that are perfectly suited for industry to solve. So I'd say, what I've learned from that is maybe a little bit better choice of what to work on when I'm in the university to maybe potentially have an impact. And try to avoid doing the things that industry is so good at. Just let them solve those problems.
Love that. Well said. So jumping into it, your work today spans sustainable computing, cloud architecture, high performance systems. What trends or challenges are you seeing as data centers kind of evolve and support increasingly energy intensive workloads that are running on AI?
Oh, actually, the trends I think are sort of in everyone's face now. It's this trend towards higher power density. It's the trend towards hugely power consuming kinds of computing. But I'm just going to put up my academic, flag for a minute here. So we recognized these trends were happening as long as 10 years ago. So we started working on power grid meets sustainable computing with this zero carbon cloud project because in the years I'd spent at Intel, I'd sort of figured out that Moore's law was coming to an end. And when Moore's law comes to an end and our scaling comes to an end, it means computing, which we seem to have an infinite appetite for, was going to consume more and more power. So here we are.
Now, your session at OCP Summit just jumped off the page for me. You're talking about AI data centers and microgrids. So what does that actually mean, and how does that relate to the challenge that you just described in terms of increased power?
Oh, it's great. It's a great question. One of the things that people first think about when they think about data centers that consume a lot of power is they think hundreds of megawatts, gigawatts, it's just a lot. But actually, it's more complicated than that because our power grid is going through this transformation to become more renewable-based. And the challenge with renewable-based generation is it fluctuates. It's volatile. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. So the key question really is how do we take these data centers, which we want to run flat out all the time, full load, right? Make them as valuable as possible, and harmonize that with this fluctuating, kind of power. So the idea of these microgrids are you want to have flexibility in how you use power inside the data center and how you actually manage a very interesting thing, cooling or cold inside the data center. So that's the two things I'm going to talk about.
That's fascinating. And as data centers continue to grow and evolve, how do you see the change for partners to be good stewards of the power grid, particularly as concerns rise about grid capacity and just overall sustainability?
Oh, great question. So, I was talking before about this idea that data centers are these big loads and the grids are increasingly these volatile, fluctuating kinds of things. So to be a good citizen, right, in that kind of a grid, What you need is the data centers to be a little bit flexible, because it turns out like just 1% of the time of the year, the grid is really stressed. And like when you're having a bad day, you're like, I can't deal with this right now. That's how the grid feels. Well, that's how the grid acts. So what they really need is for data centers to be able to back off a little bit, just a couple of hours a year. And then it turns out, we did some studies, some other people did some studies to show that you can dramatically increase the amount of power that's available on the grid if you can just have that flexibility. So this is one of the big challenges, and people are trying to work out how like these microgrids that I talk about can enable data centers to have this flexibility. Now we'd like to do it in a way that the data centers can still run flat out almost all the time for their AI, their training, their inference, whatever. So the trick is, how do you invent technology to let people have their cake and eat it too?
Where can folks engage with you if they want to continue the dialogue?
Oh, that's a great question. So obviously, you can find my information on the UChicago website. There's a wealth of papers and other information about what we're doing, but they can just reach out. I'd be happy to interact with folks via email or chat or something like that.
Thanks so much for being here, and thanks so much, Jeniece, for partnering on this great episode from OCP.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Allyson.
Thank you for having me here.